evening is a wonderful guest. He's always on. I have him on here as almost a regular. He's John Storm. And John was born in 1953 in a family of hereditary witches that count their ancestry all too many centuries ago in ancient Tara. He was raised and trained in the craft as the only male witch in his family by his grandmother, he has grandchildren of his own. He began serious martial arts training in 1963. His sensei became his father figure. He strove for perfection, holding a second-degree black belt in Mas Oya-mas Karate and a master's ranking in Chinese Kenpo by the early 1970s. Between training for tournaments and running his own small chain of studios, he took radio and TV broadcasting at El Paso Community College in Colorado Springs, Colorado. This gave John his first good taste of journalism. 30 plus years later, and dying to write some of these experiences in a book, he wrote an entire series in the Witch Clan theme. These are character-driven stories with true-to-life characters and experiences melded into an entertaining fantasy. His first full-length novel in this series is The Matriarch of the Witch Clan, and that's www.witchclan.com. Readers are encouraged to visit the website. Apparently, the feds did take that down. But if you want to correspond with the author, he and his family sponsor and are also registered as Witches of the World at the Witch's Voice, which is witchbox.com, and you can find them there. He also has his wonderful, wonderful book. If you haven't read it already, it's free. It's a download at Book Rick's Practical Witchery, and you can just download it for free. And I encourage you to do so because it's filled with so much excellent data. And for the longest time, he has kept his MK Ultra exposure rather low key. It's that it always seems to be too much for people to get their heads around, and it's not fun drawing out those experiences for them. That's quote unquote. And even then, his craft is as much a part of him as breathing. And there's a quote I want to mention real quick on his YouTube channel, and I have to say I love it. But this is his quote. It's a little modified here, but yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for I have been made into an MK Ultra, and that makes me the meanest son of a bitch in the whole damn valley. I love that, John. Please welcome John Storm to the show this evening. That's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah, you got to take ownership of things.
That's right. And you know what? I applaud you because you just keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger, even if you don't think you are. I looked at some pictures of you when you were really doing not so well, and then
Yeah.
after you rebooted, and it was like you were resurrected. I mean, you just keep resurrecting.
That is so weird. Each time I think that this is gonna be it, sooner or later this stuff has to run out. I'm sure they never really intended me to live this long, not by a long stretch. And being one of the first generations, you really, there's no telling, there's no predecessors to tell you how this is going to turn out for you. And with the kind of government we got, well, when they retire assets, it generally involves something like a dirt nap instead of a lounge chair by a poolside, in your golden years.
Right. And you're one of the last ones. I mean, I don't know. Do you know how many of the first generation ultras are out there that are still functioning and living?
I wouldn't call much of it living. Most of us are surviving. That's me most of the time. Just surviving. You're just trying to endure the stuff they're putting you through, trying to find a way to live through it. Every time your name crosses a computer, for just about anything. I mean, you can go to Sears and buy a little toy, and your name crosses, and there's going to be some problem just trying to buy this stupid toy. Just because some kind of reaction gets triggered somewhere. It's crazy. And it seemed like that last little stretch there in Watertown. I remember doing a few of these radio shows and some others, and I remember, it's like, well, I was dying. I gave myself about 12 weeks because the last time I started losing weight like that, in about 12 weeks, I was in critical care, and my kidneys and my liver shut down, and everything did kind of have to get rebooted. But I still wasn't getting better after that. I was getting more narcoleptic, more seizures, and everything. And then people start on the radio shows. I feel led to send you, this turmeric or CoQ10 for my heart or some kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, I'll give it a try. I mean, I've been a witch my whole life, so I'm familiar with a lot of these herbals and stuff like that. Try to do my best, but with the situation they put me in, I don't always have the resources. So people start sending it, and evidently, as soon as whatever it was that those supplements were making up for, my body starts snapping back into shape. I mean, within a few weeks, I look like I look like I've been bodybuilding, but the muscle is very soft. It's like new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the hard mahogany kind of stuff I used to have. But it's back. You know, my hair
Mm-hmm.
even start coming in blonde again. It's like I I can't understand it. You know, sooner or later it's going to stop for good. I
It's a
always thought,
regeneration. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of, John? Just if I may, it sounds to me like you have cloned templates of you somewhere, and that's when you start to fail, something comes in and interconnects onto you and probably overlays. That's just my impression. It just seems to me like there's a backup somewhere, wherever it's coming from, whether it's from divine forces with you or something they've
I
engineered over the
I've
years.
seen it. I've seen doppelgangers show up before.
Mm.
I remember even another interviewer asking me if I had clones or something. It's like
Yeah.
I don't honestly know. I didn't. I what I know that I can tell people is either it's either something that I have while I was trying to corroborate. Uh, I don't have to recall a lot of things from hypnosis. You know, most of what I've been through, I can just remember freely.
Mm-hmm.
But there's places where they did mess with me, use me for debriefings and stuff like that, and you know, so there are places where they tampered with my memory and try to give me cover memories and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I pretty much got it. And I try to corroborate things, and I got information. You know, I can say, okay, I can place these doctors in this place at this time, and me in that place at that time, and I know what was going on. And then there's the freedom of information. You know, you just look for where you are, where you grew up, and you'll find stuff
Right.
that
Benchmarks.
will that's not in your imagination.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You
Yeah, you
know.
need a benchmark. There's no doubt about it. And that's what I like about you. You're very analytical when you need to be about finding documentation on certain areas. And with you, I mean, the documentation is everywhere.
Yeah, it's there. There's plenty of, and now there's well, allegedly they just released another 12 million pages. It'll be crap stuff. Most of it that I'm going through now is, but I did find two pieces of information. They're just little pieces of information. But this is how you check if you've been involved in these programs. I remember Dr. Al Wilson Green in the early part of the program during the 60s and stuff. And it's like, okay, I found a little piece of document that places him at the University of Rochester in 1961, with the CIA at the University of Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah.
right, so it's kind of like, all right, I was there, he was there, they were there. We all knew this. This piece of paper is something other than me. That well, it has the CIA and it has him, but it doesn't have me. But then, how did I know about it before it became not top secret anymore?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
So
they like. Oh, go
that's how
ahead.
you investigate and check this stuff out and try to find out what's concrete and what's illusion with these people.
Right. Well, they like to do damage control. But I took a lot of notes when I was first inducted, and I was lucky enough to get the names and identities of the people instantaneously. And that was good. And then later on, when they start doing damage control and they start running programs, yeah, you can't trust some of the data streams, at least in my opinion, where I was with the AI. But I'll tell you point blank, what makes me angry, and I'll tell you a billion times, and I know you heard it before, but it's like I want these guys held accountable. I want every single SOB that's been involved in these type of hellacious mind control, war criminal acts to be held accountable. I really do. I have had it with this waiting on karma or Madam Karma. John, I get so
Yeah,
damn pissed because you know how many years have been stolen? I mean, your whole life was ripped away. Mine happened
yeah.
when I turned 40. So I didn't have it as a child, thank goodness. But my years were ripped away. Never could restore those. So it's
None of us ever get. We're all lost something. Like when I'm talking with my some of my friends here, and so we're all damaged goods. We've been through these programs. Somebody took what. the Creator made of us, and tried to twist it into something else.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for me, normal. I don't have a benchmark for normal.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing normal about anything that I come up in. Um, I some freaks look a little better than some other freaks, maybe not quite so misshapen. Somehow or another, I managed to get some humanity back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's your
I
spiritual side too. I think that's your path of the, of the witch, being on
Yeah.
that level of consciousness. But, we blend in pretty well and we can adapt and look like everybody else. But I'll tell you what, when you see the eyes and you see the trauma and you know that there's a lot in there, inexcusable,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I still remember a lot of those kids in the program, even when they came in for training. Later on, being one of the first generation, they had a thing they called best practices, and they send you out and onto a mission. They expect you to accomplish so much. You come back. All right, now there's parts where they gave you so much information, but you get out there and you find out, okay, the mission still goes sideways anyway. And you have to find some way to kind of catch it up, pick up the pace, and get things to where they need to be at very specific times. It's really hard to pull together.
Mm-hmm.
You're like in one big controlled panic attack when you're on these missions. And I'm I got myself off on a bunny trail and I lost where I was going with it.
Well, it's all right. Sometimes
uh,
that happens. But
well, it's you get out onto these, and like I say, it's all traumatic. It's all, if you fail, it's going to be your life. And even if it's not your life, if you fail and you come back, it may be much worse than your life.
mhm.
It's you get to where you've even envy the dead, uh, um, because at least they got to stop. They don't have to fight no more. They don't have to struggle. They don't have to sweat. They don't have to look over their shoulder to see what's going to come at them next. Um,
Mhm.
there's sometimes I feel like I must be like about 250 years old.
Right. I feel a
Uh,
lot older than that too. Yeah, I can relate because it's almost like you're living simultaneously multiple lives, and then some of them aren't even yours. I mean, some of them are programs that run, I imagine, simultaneously to some degree. Like you're
yeah, yeah. I was fortunate in that my facets of my personality weren't shattered into such completely separate pieces.
mhm.
There was always some kind of cohesion there, that kept coming back, to its original shape or something like it. There were times though that where they'd use the chair, the LSD, the scopolamine, the electrical shocks, and you'd have like a sense around movie theater. You can't take your eyes off of, and the
Mhm.
sounds turned way up, painful, and then they'll kind of get you to a certain point where they'll try to give you like a cover memory, tell you forget everything where you were, and instead you were in some nice pastoral scene, staying with a country uncle or something, and uh, you know.
Mhm.
Now if you were in something traumatic, that little image wouldn't hold. You'd go to sleep, you'd close your eyes at night, and like any hardcore returning veteran, with PTSD, you close your eyes and the images of the horrors and the smells and the sounds come back as absolutely vividly as they were the very first time you experienced them.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
that part messes you up. But when you see that in the younger kids, like in the students that they'd send, uh, um, there'd be this haunted look, like,
Mhm.
what's going to happen to me next? If I fail this, what's going to happen to me next? Some of them you got to try to find some way to give them some kind of courage or hope. Others, you just know, man, they're going to get out one, two missions, and that's going to be it for it. They're gone, they're done. And I have the memory of all those. I mean, I don't have their memories, but I have the memories of so many that didn't make it. Didn't, you know? You envy the ones that died; they don't have to struggle. But then there's the ones that lived and they're not themselves anymore.
Right.
And you go over to a place like in Rochester, there's a place called Terrence Towers. It's just down the road from Building 400 and University of Rochester, and it's a big psych unit. And there, you know, you'll find some of the kids that you grew up with or had your little MK Ultra preschool. They're howling and smearing their own feces on themselves, and that's the fate worse than death.
And that's the part that's never reported. I mean, that's the part they don't really talk about. I know there have been books and documentaries here and there in the past, but really people don't have a clue. Most people don't have a clue insofar as the
As soon as the
details
sports
associated.
scores come up, they forget that little documentary or
That's right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of
Me,
that,
I can't. I never can. And like you said, they do got to pay. And it's like, yeah, I am trying my best to patiently wait for karma. There've been quite a few times in my life I wasn't so sure I was gonna.
hmm
Um, on my bad days, I used to go down to, you know, I'd get very, very anxious and everything. And you feel like, you know, you can't make any plans for the future. You can't make things better or anything because every time you do, they're gonna sabotage it. They're
right.
going to throw a wrench in it. If they don't want you to go that way, if they want you to do something else,
hmm
they used to come and you know, come around behind my back, talk to my boss. They didn't want to get close to me because they get close to me, it's going to get dangerous.
hmm
I don't have any delusions. You know, somebody can come up and flash a badge to most people and say I'm at the CIA and yeah, we're the good guys. And me, it's like if he sticks his hand anywhere close to that gun, he's a dead agent.
Well, most of the time they're lying sacks that you know what anyway, and that's the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
They already have a reputation of being two-faced, mind control oriented. They're already
Uh-huh.
compromised. They already have alters, and also they've been involved in these insidious mind control war criminal acts. Not all of them, but I would say a great majority. So yeah, it's a real problem. I totally agree with you on that one. Yeah, you know, it's at the point in the continuum. We're tired of the mind games, and they've been orchestrating an illusion for how many decades? Who knows? I mean, really, since the CIA
They're
was formulated.
trying. They're
Oh my gosh, yes.
still trying. I'm hearing more reports coming out now. They're talking about stuff I've known for years. And it's kind of like I thought everybody knew, or at least most people knew.
hmm
And then they're playing it off as if it's not that or it's something else. And it's kind of, you can't get anything kind of even remotely true from these people, you know,
Exactly.
dealing with the government, anything from NASA to, hey, is that an asteroid out there in our general direction? You know, I don't, hey, it's going to miss by a couple of 100,000 miles. Cool. But they won't even tell you that much.
Right. Well, and what's really concerning is that they keep files on everybody, and the ones who are ultras, of course, they have your own files, but they compromise everything with their own lies and deception. So the data in that file, whatever it is, wherever it is, doesn't have any accuracy because it's compromised by the agents. And that's the problem
Oh,
I'm seeing is like they're writing all these nice big biographies on everybody that they've targeted, inducted, programmed, and it's all crap. There's no accuracy in it at all, and this is the problem I have. And I think that's one of those things where you see that with that big building in Manhattan, the NSA building, that supposedly is indestructible to bombs. I mean, they're the culprits right there. That's one of the main culprits. Storing data, they're storing data for a reason, as we all know, and
yeah.
it's not just about wondering what you're having for breakfast.
No, no, it's like, yeah, knowledge is power, and they want power over everybody. They lust after it, and I can kind of relate to that as a witch in my own way. I lust after power. I just don't care to have power over anybody else.
Right.
I just want to master me, and I want to be a good sibling with everybody else. We all come from the same source, so we're all kind of responsible to each other.
hmm
And I want that to always work towards the better. I have a lifetime of what bad is like, what hell is like, you know, a dark place where foul lies and awful things happen to people, good people, whether they did anything bad or not. You know, I'm tired of hell.
hmm
I'm looking for something better. And while I'm in hell, I'm going to make it hell for the devil because I'm going to try to make it a nice place.
hmm
You know?
Yeah.
Or yeah, I know I'm not going to get there. I'm just saying I'm going to try.
Well, you know what? I
Maybe
agree with you
one
on
or
that.
two people are going to be happy in hell,
Great.
but it ain't going to be them.
Right. Well, yeah, just you're a challenger to many forces out there. Let's put it that way. And I like to consider us beings like that because we are so vast in consciousness. We remember who we are, even if we're trying to be, even if they're trying to hit us with technology or whatever it is. When you were talking about that, just to go back for a second here, when you're talking about the sense around and everything, and I do want people to be reminded that that technology has been upgraded to such a level with artificial intelligence that it's
Oh,
signal transmitted now that they can do the sense around, they can induct you, they can do a neural interface with an AI intelligence program where you get heterodyned and you're programmed and you're seeing with psychotronic programming, they're hitting targeted areas of the brain to cause any type of it could be a health condition or it could be psychotronics. You name it, they
yeah.
can do it. So that's one thing I wanted to make sure because nowadays that's the animal I was subjected to. I was subjected to the one that can be it's just smooth. It's very smooth and
It is.
and
It
it's
is.
very deceptive. And then we were touching base off air a little bit about the craziness that's going on with people being triggered, people that you wouldn't suspect to be triggered, all of a sudden flipping out. And although they haven't been through a covert program like yourself, it makes you wonder where they have been or what is hitting them on a technological scale, perhaps that's even more distributed as a cloaking system.
Yeah, it's I don't know at this point, maybe it's for all the years of resistance or something like that. Um, I won't say I'm like completely immune to it, but because I feel the impulses and stuff like that, it just it's just not in a part of my mind or anything that I have to obey.
Exactly.
That sounds like a perfectly lousy idea.
Hmm.
Okay, and I wanted to do something else. But last January, last, not this Christmas, the Christmas before last, 2015, was the first Christmas that I had spent with my family in over 20 years. I was with my oldest daughter, my grandsons. We were in New Hampshire. They came and kind of rescued me after my disability, and that came through, and a nice little room there in the mountains in New Hampshire. And I'd take walks in the woods and that every day, and it was nice. It was great to be with home with family. And within 2 weeks of that Christmas, nice fireplace, beautiful, everything you'd imagine a really good family Christmas would be. Within 2 weeks, I got up one morning, asked my daughter about a phone call. I got roared at, sweared at, punched in the head, and then when I says, okay, that's it, I just kept my temper, went in my room, locked myself in. Being narcoleptic, I fell asleep. At about 6:30 at night, the cops are knocking on the window. My daughter and the grandsons and everybody's left the house. I'm thinking there must be an accident out on that mountain road. I let them in. Turns out that I'm being arrested for having terrorized my family since they'd been fear for their lives of me since they were babies.
It's wild.
It's like, yeah, where did this come from? Um, it just suddenly, just
Hmm.
there was no warning whatsoever. When I got up that morning, I had no clue. And then the cops took me. Well, the Hillsborough police just took me to their police department. They were going to send me to a hotel and say, it's like an order of protection. I can't stay at home, but I don't have no friends. All right. We live way the hell up in the mountains. Okay.
Hmm.
Very rural. All right. I don't have any friends at all in New Hampshire, anybody I can call, or I don't even have a cell phone on me. And then the sheriff comes and gets me and takes me 2 cities away to Manchester. They keep me overnight, arraign me in the morning, and put me out on the streets. I said, "Wait a minute, can't you just kind of keep me in jail till we get this settled?" And they says, "Well, we're running a jail here, not a homeless shelter." And I said, "Well, give me the number of a homeless shelter. I need help. I'm sick. You took me out of my sick bed and brought me here." They put me out into a blizzard. I not only didn't know what city I was in, I didn't know what side of the city was, where any kind of help was or anything. I eventually found my way to a bus station and then managed to get back to a laptop and then my Facebook friends and stuff. help me get to Boca Raton where some other people could help me
Mm-hmm.
bring me back. But 8 times during I had 8 different doctors. They all got hacked.
Wow.
Right? The medical records, I got the paper records and everything. I made a little video on YouTube
I
called
saw that.
CIA, yeah, Storm 53, and I'm telling people how to document and how to check things. There's certain things that you can check with all this psychotronic stuff and everything else. It does show up on some things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, look, if you got a physical verification of something that's in your head, then it's not your imagination. All right.
Exactly.
And this is important for people to know. It's easy to doubt yourself and then to fall into that little black pit of despair, and you doubt everything around you. The world is confusing enough as it is. There's some things you just have to know. And to know it, you got to document it, you got to study it. You just can't accept it as a feeling. You want to see some substance behind that to help verify that these things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, some way, when you're sure of that and you can be confident in yourself, they can't boss you around quite so easily, bully you. But
Mm-hmm.
they did this to me. I'd have drugs that I need for my seizures and the narcolepsy and the diabetes is terrible. You've seen some of the pictures. It's almost killed me a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and somehow something always happens and I kind of pop back. I'm not free of diabetes or the seizures or any of that stuff. I just look a lot healthier and feel a bit livelier. It's that MK Ultra, whatever that Rockefeller genetics did to me.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's which doesn't kill you, makes you more empowered and more. Yeah, you have an immunity
Yeah, by
almost.
now I should be leaping over tall buildings with a single pounder.
But it is true, you do calibrate to, I guess, I don't want to say you calibrate to abuse, but I think that we have a calibration to
I
certain
believe
types
so.
of tactical assault. Yeah. And to a point where you just keep overriding and you just keep going and going and going. But I will say that a lot of I think, I suspect that your health issues, especially the seizures, it has a lot to do with that type of psychotronics and mind control. I'm sure of it.
Well, the drugs that they were giving me were actually making it worse.
Hmm.
Even the Keppra and the gabapentin. We had found one of the nice things about coming out here. I knew a lady that moved to Denver with her 9-year-old son. He was having 100+ seizures a day.
Wow.
And you had the medical marijuana there in Colorado. So she went there and it was doing like fantastic stuff for her boy.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, well, he's 9 years old. Me, I'm this. There's nothing normal, about me. Every time I try to think of myself like everybody else, it's the stupidest thing I could do because I'm not in the same measuring stick or what. It's not saying it's better. It's just different.
Hmm.
You just can't gauge it like everything else because it's not true. But anyway, yeah, I was wondering how it was going to work with me. I try not to get my hopes too far up because it hurts sometimes. We can count on tribulation.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like I used to tell the kids that I used to have to train. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional.
Hmm.
But anyway, I wasn't sure how that was going to work. Anyway, I get out here, I get my prescriptions established, and set up my Social Security disability so it reaches me here, and try to get all my T's crossed and I's dotted and all that kind of stuff. And then they cut my Keppra and the gabapentin cold turkey. Now, recently, those seizures had gotten so bad that we had to double both of those dosages just to get me in the same place of about 15 or less seizures a day.
Wow.
That's a big relief though from 100+ a day though.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right. So we get here, they cut me off cold turkey. I've been going through cold sweats and withdrawal. It's not a narcotic, so it's not like DTs and hallucinations or stuff.
Hmm.
But the withdrawal is there. The real 2 months of real sick. And but we had some CBD oil capsules handy, and so we'll try this. This is what they've been using for seizures, and it kind of went right to that. Now dig this: out of 100+ a day down to 15 a day, and even those were getting stronger into grand mal instead of the little ones. Now I'm down to less than 5 a day. My very worst sick day in the last couple of months had 4 seizures, all of them small, no grand mals whatsoever.
Wow, that's
And
wonderful.
on my average day, 2, maybe 3.
That's excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
That's fantastic. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like when they got the disability, they said this situation is just going to get worse until you die.
Mhm.
And I am very happy to tell you that that actually got better.
Mhm. That's great. Well, I've heard that before that it has helped, and now you're a confirmation that it does help. So that's
Yeah,
wonderful. The
that's
seizures.
my personal experience. I was very happy, and I was telling my doctor about it the other day. I finally got a new doctor, and well, he's an old doctor, but I told him what happened with the GABA. So I said, we're not doing that no more. I'm off of that stuff. I still got to do the insulin and the blood pressure medicine and all that other kind of stuff, but maybe the cannabis medicines will come up with something for that or something better. But that was really terrific medicine, though.
Mhm. Yeah.
It really pains me that good medicine was withheld from me and foul medicine was given to me in its place, the Keppra and the gabapentin with the side effects and
Right.
that.
Well, that's big pharma for you. You know, they don't want to get anybody better. It's all about keeping you sick and keeping them rich.
Yeah, that makes me very, very angry. And then it's kind of like, well, we got to get your card to get permission to get medical marijuana. And it's kind of like the stuff grows naturally. The only danger is getting shot by a cop when you're trying to pick it.
Is it
Uh,
legal in there? I guess
Well,
Nevada's not legal,
it
is it?
is in Las Vegas
Oh,
here.
it is. Okay.
Part about it, and even recreational now you can have your stag parties and you can have reefer brought to that.
Mhm.
Here, I was just seeing an advertisement for that locally. It's just wow. But that's the thing. It's good medicine. It was no side effects or nothing, and I was only taking one pill every other day, trying to stretch it.
Mhm.
That's the results I got.
Wow, that's incredible. That's a good testimonial. There's no doubt about that.
That's yeah. I want to look more into a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I can pass that on to a lot of different people. You know, there's so many people out there who are sick in some form or another, but the seizures, that's a big deal if you can get those under control like that.
Oh man, yeah. It's I do not miss going into whiplash and whacking my head on the back of the wall behind me or whatever. It's like sometimes those twitches and spasms would be so strong. You'd pull a muscle or throw something out of joint when it happened. It's kind of quick there and gone, but it's painful.
Right. Did you ever? I have a couple questions here in chat, and
Sure.
I'll get to the second one first. But I guess Olive was asking if you were still taking gabapentin. Did you ever take anything like
So
that?
yeah, I was.
Okay, he remembered.
Yeah, I'm off of it now. That
Hey,
that and the Keppra. That was for the neuropathy. The CBD oil is holding the neuropathy down even better than the gabapentin, and the seizures even better than the Keppra. Same pill. It's wonderful.
wow, that's Olive. I'm impressed that he remembered that. So that's pretty darn good. And
Yeah.
then we have Bella here asking you: Has MK Ultra bled over into New Age? She said, "Lucis Trust propaganda New Age. Does it bleed over in Wiccan or Wicca or Craft? I guess."
Um, well, it does bleed into Wicca, but that's because Wicca's a Reconstructionist a type of religion. They're trying to build the old craft, and they do have a lot. From between the Gardnerians and the Alexandrians, they do have a lot of really good, really genuine traditional craft, but they fill in the gaps with a lot of Eastern mysticism, Sufi mysticism, little Tao, a little Kabbalah, a little of everything. And back during about the 17th century or so, you had the Golden Dawn, which was the Rothschilds' personal coven. All right, they're Luciferian. And the only real occult schools that were allowed that where they weren't burned at the stake. Everywhere else they're burning and hanging witches and persecuting them. But in London and the big capitals of Europe and that people are studying with the Golden Dawn with guys like Dr. John Dee and that, and even there's even courts that's even financing them practice their magic while other people get burned for it. But that was a Luciferian magic. That's warlock magic. And one quick way to tell is their holy language is Latin. It's a trade language.
Mm-hmm.
It's the language you do for law. You twist words and you capture people. It's everything you've been warned about, but nobody seems to take the warning well.
No, they don't pay
But that
attention.
has been, yeah, that the Luciferians, they've been involved in that from the very beginning, and before that. So yeah, that's in there. They'll try to twist people every which way they can get them to go along that path.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I think a lot of the time too, if you're a really good conduit for energy, obviously we're channels and transmitters and receivers. That always, excuse me, is an appeal to these people, from what I understand, because of the way the technology likes to interface with a target. So they figure if you're channeling and bringing in multidimensional energies and celestial energies beyond your divine higher self, you can easily interface with an AI, which is true. We are
believe-
compatible with the machine programs, and that's the problem. There is that what they're doing is they're taking conduits and people in these craft, or anybody who's in the new age. I mean, that's where they can be hijacked, brain hacked, and actually be channeling entities connected to
yeah,
covert intel versus a real celestial design work.
I'd love to know how they did what they did with me. I mean, the hardware in my head is just it's just that's also unbelievable. I
Hmm.
would never have believed it if I hadn't seen it.
Right.
um, the MRIs and all of that. How they got that in there, how they moved that around, how does my mind operate it or it operate my mind? I'm pretty sure I got my own mind.
Hmm.
All these years, all these decades, I'm very consistent. So I'm pretty sure this is the real base me
Right.
here. But what does that other stuff do? When did it kick in? I
Hmm.
remember though I had one mission, one of the last two or three. It was south of the border, down by Belize and Guatemala, where it joins up with Mexico. And I got caught and I got tortured, and they kind of chained me to a metal box springs and kind of worked me over with electrodes for, well, I know it was days. How many days I don't know. I was a mess. I did manage to get loose. I was every time I spazzed with that, I'd bend the little end on the box springs, the little metal thing, so I could slip my cuffs out of it when it finally broke from the stress.
Hmm.
Got out. I remember the first two guys I met in the hallway in the hacienda. I better take them out really quick because I was in no shape to be in no big long fight. And I got them, and then I remember walking through jungle and stuff, one foot in front of the other, one at a time to the drop point. And they told me that when they found they said when the cleaning ladies came, that was our little code word for the CIA. They'd come and clean up things, bribe people and make things look like something else happened. And when they went to the hacienda, to compound, everybody was dead. And it's like I had no way. I had no weapons. I mean, by my hands, yeah, I'm a master martial artist and I'm very, very good at what I do, but I had just been tortured for days. No water, no nothing. I was a mess. I was seeing spots. I could hardly stand up.
Hmm.
You know, how did these people die? And we've heard Duncan and some others talk about this kind of killing field thing coming out. And I'm wondering, some of these things in here look almost like an antenna array. When you have an AM or FM station there, they have the lines of antennas
Hmm.
to. Well, I got a couple arrays like that right in the center of my brain, and I'm wondering, is this what that is? And what is it I do that activates that, or what is it they do that
Right.
activates that?
Well,
And
I think it
who
feeds off of your neural circuits. From what I understand, it's kind of like a nano interface, but it's a signal. I know the one that I was interfaced with was a single transmission, but it kind of it creates kind of a network, and it
Yeah, the
interfaces.
ones I was looking at, some L.A. Marzulli and this other guy that actually pulls out some of those implants. Well, I
Hmm.
don't think they'll ever get to mine. That's just too far. But all of those have stuff wrapped around them
Hmm.
and wrapped around nerves and stuff nearby. And
Right.
this is like in my brain. It's, geez, what's it hooked up to?
Yeah. Well, I think they use the brain as the driving system. That's the bottom line. It hijacks the neural circuits in the electrical system. So it's hijacking, and then it's creating its own what I call electronic brain interface. So it's a separate brain interacting with yours. And my take is, just from my own research and what I know about it, is that when you go into an altered space of consciousness, whether it's through dream time, meditation, or if you're having a seizure, that could be one of their ways of running a program in an alternate. So you're on, say you're unconscious. Well, it's running a program while you're unconscious. Okay. That's my take on it. I could be wrong, but I don't think so, because, the technology I was interfaced with is very, very specific about how it works with the feedback program. It's called a feedback. And the feedback is a separate entity. It's a separate electronic brain, basically.
Yeah. The last stroke I had in 2005, I was like comatose for about 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah. But I remember everything while I was comatose, though.
That's good.
And it was an interesting scenario being played. It was very hard to, well, I wasn't aware of 5 days. I knew it was a long time, but I didn't know that long. I was with a friend. We were in Vietnam, and we were walking through a market. This is a lady friend, and we were just walking through an Asian market together, and this really misshapen monster of a person comes walking up and he's trying to attack her, and I get in the way, and we end up in this. It's something called a Wu Chen Kuei. It's kind of a demon, and we end up in this big long fight, that goes on for days, and then finally, I cut him a few times, and he went away, and I got left to myself, and it was like swimming out of a very, very, very deep place.
Wow.
It seemed like I would never reach the surface before I'd black out. It was, and it was so hard to stay up after I got conscious again, just from the stroke. But when you talk about a program being run, it was like, I'll say there was quite a program. It was like an epic adventure being run while I was comatose.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what it reminds me of, because when they do that, it's almost like the AI, the artificial intelligence program, can actually learn from us. In other words, It's learning from our psychic abilities. It's learning how we deflect attacks, even on the astral plane. So if you're being put into a simulation, say when you're in the dream time or in an altered space of consciousness, it would make sense that they would try to use something like that, like a program. And I know they have programs that run, because I don't dream.
Yeah, I've had programs. It was a simulation, because the gal, she was having problems. She was from a Vietnamese witch clan. She was having problems, and she was having dreams during that time and before, because I was helping her through some of that. I mean, while in the waking hours, in just in the course of our, interacting at work and everything, and we were friends. So I mean, she was experiencing a lot of this stuff. The memories seemed to be a little different in some places, but essentially the same things were happening. Just what they looked like or exactly where they were taking place was a little different in her accounts. But I mean, things were happening. It wasn't like, there was 5 days in a coma, and it wasn't like 5 days weren't spent. It was like, when I did get back to work, the person who represented this monster I was fighting was out and injured, and we did kind of get a little break from this person's bad influence.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so I mean, there was some corroboration between the crazy fantasy in the coma and what was going on in the waking world. It wasn't strictly 1-for-1 ratio, but it was enough that, far more than coincidence,
Right. Well, the way I look at it is that these people that create these programs, these perpetrators, their energetic signatures in the program. So when you go after when you're interacting on a program or in a program, you're still going after their essence. And that's what I always said, these people are screwed. The people that create these programs to harm others like this with psychotronic driving, I have news for them. They're not hiding in a control room anymore. We're hunting them down. with the transmission of their own signal. These people are going to be prosecuted, and they're also, in my opinion, they're so messed up, they're gone. I mean, that's the thing is there's always a perpetrator, but there's always a masked person. But you take the mask off and you see behind the program there's somebody there, and I think that's kind of what you were piercing to some degree. There's actually they can bleed, they can hurt. They're not invincible. They're not the boogeyman under the bed. These are real people. They're real perpetrators, and people need to understand that.
That's right. And it's interesting that the things that they rule with the most are the things that they are probably the easiest ruled by.
Mm-hmm.
Case in point, one of their biggest control tools, as witches, warlocks in their particular case, because I really don't consider any of that wise. The karma alone is astronomical. That they trying to find a best way to word this. That out of warlock magic, the way they control with the dollars. All right, people, hey, I met this wonderful guy, Daddy, that I just love. What's he do for a living? Oh, you think that's just your dad? Your mom will say the same thing. All right, all right. It's not. Are you happy? Do you love this person? Do you really feel like you guys want to spend the rest of your life together? What kind of money does he make? Everything is measured by dollars and cents in this. Every law on our books, also in Latin, warlock language, has a dollar value attached to it. Everybody, you come in, and if you're, go into the club, and if the little fob on your key ring is a Mercedes instead of a Ford Pinto, you're going to be the one with the most dance girls on your card, Everything about this is your control. Well, if you don't do what we say, we're going to have to cut your pay, or we're going to have to let you go. But everybody has to go to work so they can pay to live here. All right. So it's a control thing that they have. Mm-hmm. But with them, it is still a control thing. Now, they're sociopathic. They don't have any scruples to speak of. They'd sell their own grandmother by the pound. And the only way that you will find any shame or remorse from any of them is if one of their friends got more for their grandmother than they got for his.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right. That would be the only thing. All right. With them. So, the money bit would rule them. If everybody died today, leaving only the elite, within a month, they would be taken to digging up graves just to steal the pennies off the eyes of the dead, because that is the only way they have to validate their existence, by how much of that they're getting.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, they're disconnected from what I call source energy. Yeah.
When I was coming up in MK Ultra, everything was trauma induced. Fear was the basis for everything. But they're also ruled by fear. Mm-hmm. They were trying to make me into someone that, when they set me out with a 100% success rate, and 0% collateral damage, just as accurate as a laser beam, they wanted to strike fear into their, when they made a threat to their enemies, and then the next thing you know, their enemies could have a little happy accident, or could be just outright murdered. It didn't matter. They could get anybody anywhere. This struck fear into, but they also feared me. Mm-hmm. And the more that I was showing my own mind, the more they had something against it. And I start noticing that after a while. They were a little less abusive to me. They gave me more elbow room, kind of treated me a bit like a poisonous snake.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I start getting a little freedom that I didn't have before. So I, over the years, I exercise it a little bit more and push it just a little. Don't want to push it too far. You're going to end up one of those poor howling idiots in the, in the psych ward. It's just, that still gives me the chills when I think of it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, they'll find some way to destroy people, whether it's physically taking them down, putting them in a prison, or locking them up in an insane asylum. Yeah, they have all kinds of methods for screwing people over. There's no doubt about that.
They do to other people what scares them the most.
Right. Yeah, I'd love to see it turned back on them, John. I'd love to see half of their personnel get inducted and psychotronically driven like we have been, or I would
Mm.
just love to see this. They wouldn't last an hour. I'm telling you right now.
Oh man, yeah. I'd like to just. I'd love to take like. I used to say this. This is a few presidents ago. I always wanted to get George Bush, George W. there, Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, and waterboard them and see what kind of confessions. Oh man, I'd put that on international television.
Right?
I mean, I'd have them confessing to dressing up in drag and picking up sailors.
Yeah, it's true. They've never been interrogated about it. They've gotten kind of like a green light to just do whatever they want to do. The problem with these quote unquote, I think they call one of these divisions is the Brotherhood. There are a lot of them out there that literally are out there to gaslight and harass and psychotronically stalk people and interconnect them onto electronics. Terrible, terrible people. These are they're horrible people. They're terrorists. So, anyways, we're going to hit the break. We're going to get back to this when we come back. This is not hyperspace. This is Ravenstar's Witching Hour. My other show's hyperspace. And you're listening to Solaris BlueRaven. My wonderful guest tonight is John Stormm. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.